Yo, what's going on YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the Sony a7S III and if it's still a good buy entering in 2024. Let's get into it. All right guys, what's going on? I just recently was asked a question about the a7S III and camera buying, and usually when I get asked a question, I'll just come on here, record a quick video, because if somebody's asking, then somebody else out there probably is wondering the same thing. So I figured I just used all those questions I get asked on the social media accounts, come on here, make a video for YouTube, and just get the question answered from my perspective. All right, the question that came in: is the Sony a7S III still a good camera option to buy entering in the year 2024? Now, usually these are really tough questions to answer because there's so many different type of cameras out there for so many different type of things. But just to answer just like a basic question and give you guys a basic answer, if you're a filmmaker or you're a Sony video shooter and you're looking to get a camera to last you for the next 2 to 3 years, the a7S III is still 100% a great camera option to buy, and I'm going to go over a few reasons why. Now, I might be a little bit biased because I personally own the a7S III and I've loved this camera ever since I bought it, and I still use it on every single shoot that I do professionally or personally, just for all my own personal type stuff. I'm not shooting on it right now, obviously it's right here, but I am shooting on my Sony FX3 with a 50mm lens, and it's practically the same camera, barring some, cosmetic differences and things like that. But in terms of the image quality and the sensor and everything like that, you get the same exact image. So I love both of my cameras. But as far as the a7S III, still a great camera to buy, just because for what I'm creating on a day-to-day basis, it gives me everything that I need. The reason why I say this camera will probably be good for you in the foreseeable future, probably over the next 2 to 3 years, is because for me personally, I get everything that I need out of a camera through the a7S III. Now, I know that there is not a perfect camera out there in the world right now. There's different type of things that give you different type of stuff, but for me and what I need and for my workflow, the a7S III is that perfect camera for me. Just a few things that I like about it: the 4K 60 with no crop. I don't really see myself using 6K, 8K, and all these other different type of formats in the foreseeable future, just because, one, those file formats are excessively big. And for the workflow, I know there are computers out there that are getting more and more powerful that can handle that type of footage. But for me, in terms of the file sizes and trying to housing all that footage on hard drives and things like that, I feel like the a7S III is that perfect middle ground, going from something like an a7 IV to, and something that shoots in 6K, 8K, or whatever the case may be. You're not going to get incredibly large file sizes. They're still pretty big compared to what we were using back in the a7 III days. But it's not necessarily that's going to be something that's going to be incredibly difficult to manage. Now, if you're going with something like a 6K camera, 8K camera, it seems to be going in the future. Like I said, there's computers that are getting more and more powerful, but I just don't feel like it's overly necessary to shoot in 6K, 8K, and things like that, especially when you're posting to these social platforms and people are viewing these things through their phone and things like that. When you post to social media, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and all these various platforms, they're going to downsample all that 8K, 6K, even 4K footage anyway. So shooting in that mode, yes, you might get a little bit sharper and clearer images, but it's not necessarily going to stand out that much because, again, like I said, it's still going to be downsampled from 4K, 6K, 8K, and whatever, down to whatever format that these various platforms use. But if you're someone that's shooting movies, you're not even wasting your time watching a video like this because you're off in the cinema range. You're in the Sony FX6, FX9, Sony Venice, and things like that. But for us content creators, videographers that shoot, just social media content, weddings, and things like that, you can't go wrong with the Sony a7S III, especially for the price point. I think the price has dropped recently since it came out 3 years ago. I think it retailed at about $3,500 when it first came out, but I'm pretty sure you can get it for a little bit cheaper, but it's still kind of holding its value because, again, it is such a great camera. So you're probably looking somewhere around the $3,000, $3,200 range for the body itself, and I think that's a great deal. And again, it's something that's going to be good for you for the foreseeable future going into 2024, 2025, even 2026. I don't really see myself upgrading unless there's just a camera that comes out that's just obviously a banger of a camera. But going But going into that real quick, I don't want to make this video too long. The type of upgrades I see Sony making to these cameras in the foreseeable future is just something that I'm not necessarily overly excited about. And I don't know what Sony's planning, but just thinking about what they can possibly do to these cameras in terms of like the functionality. Yes, they can give us a better sensor. Yes, they can give us better low light capabilities, things like that. But in terms of like, you know, jumping up to 6K or 8K and a new Sony a7S4, I don't know if that's in the works or whatever, but I'm just kind of guessing. If they give us a 6K sensor or 6K capabilities in the Sony a7S4, I still would probably revert back to my a7S3 just because, like I said, I don't necessarily need that, especially for the content that I shoot on a day-to-day basis. It's not something that I would jump to. Now, I was actually thinking about this. The only real upgrade that I can see myself jumping from and buying a new camera when it releases, if they introduce internal NDs. Now, if the a7S4, FX3 Mark II, something like that, come out and they have internal NDs, you got me. I'm jumping ship, I'm upgrading, I'm buying that camera just because I can't stress to you enough how valuable having internal SDs is, especially, you know, having to screw on ND filters throughout shoots and things like that can be a hassle. So if they bring out something like that, that's the only real reason I can see myself upgrading. Now, there are a lot of other cameras that are coming out that are cheaper, that give you a lot more features internally within the camera, like in the menu system and things like that. Now, there's a Sony ZV-1, great camera. A lot cheaper than the Sony a7S III, but I still think the Sony a7S III is inferior to that camera because, again, like I said, the low light capabilities, having the dual base ISO, things like that, and just, you know, the overheating, and it's just a overall better built camera in my opinion than the Sony ZV-1. But there are some features in the Sony ZV-1 that will give you a better experience internally shooting with it. I just don't feel like those upgrades are enough for me to switch from my a7S III to the Sony ZV-1 or all these other newer cameras that are coming out that are more for the content creator, budget friendly. Now, if you didn't want to spend $3,000 on a camera, the Sony ZV-1, the Sony a7C Mark II, all these other type of cameras, great cameras. Again, they have a lot of the same features that these cameras have, some of them even more so. You're going to get similar image quality. It's just that low light capabilities that's just going to take a little bit of a hit in terms of Sony a7S III and all these other cameras. But for a lot of us, it's not going to be a big deal, you know, having that extra flexibility and low light. For me, it's a big deal because I shoot weddings. So, you know, like reception time when it gets a little darker out and you need a really, really beast of a camera to shoot in low light. That's where the a7S III and the FX3 shines, in my opinion. So for me, it's a no-brainer. I'm probably going to be using these cameras for the next couple years. I don't really see myself needing to upgrade and anything crazy like I'm seeing the trends going right now. Probably it's going to be a 6K camera. I'm almost certain that Sony's working on a new a7S4 that's probably going to give us something crazy like 6K, 8K capabilities, all these different type of upgrades that all the other cameras have gotten. But again, for me, I don't necessarily need all that, and I don't need all that, the bells and whistles. And for me, the a7S III has been a workhorse, and it's going to continue to be a workhorse for the foreseeable future. And when Sony releases the a7 IV, you know, we'll come back and reassess and we'll see where we're at. But as of right now, great camera to buy if you're a serious videographer and you're looking to shoot really, really good video, especially in low light. A7S III is going to be a great camera to buy going into the 2024 year. It's either that or the FX3, two of the best cameras on the market right now, in my opinion. So that's it for me, guys. Quick video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. If you guys have the a7S III, FX3, how do you guys like it? Do you guys see yourself upgrading to anything like 6K, 8K, or anything like that? Do you feel the need for that? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to get you guys' input. But until next time, catch you guys in the next video. Peace.